Hello class, this is going to be a video on talking about how to export objects with animation details. So in our last video we talked about how to export static mesh, and in a sense static mesh is pretty freaking easy these days. You just have to pay close attention to your geometry to make sure that it's game ready, and you have to make sure that you have your materials set up in a way that you would prefer. So with this asset, we used procedural texturing, so we assigned dummy materials to the object and tossed them on in Unreal 4, kind of play around with them. And I'm actually a huge fan of procedural texturing. When I finish this object, it'll have probably anywhere between 5 to 10 separate materials. If we look at my I won't show you my reference again, but there's a lot going on with this piece as far as lighting's concerned, and materials and jukeboxes are pretty heavy on different material types and details. Anyways, in this video we're going to talk about how to export rigid body objects. So in class we were having this problem where for whatever reason Maya wasn't exporting into Unreal. I'm not sure whether the actual problem was from Maya not figuring something out, or if it was Unreal 4 just stumbling over something. I came home, I repeated the same exact steps, and I got exactly what I wanted. So unsure on what to do about that. Email me if you have problems doing what I'm about to show you, and then we can go from there and try and maybe hone in on what are the cause of these problems. Of course, with new technology, all the time we're going to get quirks like this, so that is to be expected. Alright, so let's stop rambling. Let's go ahead and start animating. So this object is a little bit different from the last one I had. The last one I had was all one piece. Click on it. Its pivot point is, well, it should be on the floor. It's not, but it's all one piece. This is what it was like before I combined all those pieces of geometry. And what's cool here is that because this is mechanical, jukeboxes are definitely mechanical in nature, I can do a lot of rigid body animations on it without having to build a complicated rig and so on and so forth. What I'll probably do is do another portion of this video committed to rigging, and I haven't decided whether I'm going to actually show you guys my rigging process. We'll see. Maybe I'll speed that part up and go through it real quickly. But I'm going to have a really simple rig that do some sort of similar animation to what I'm just about to do. Alright, so before we can ever animate something and get it moving in our scene, we have to understand how it's going to move in the first place. And as artists, we are always trying to check our reference material as closely as possible and match it, so that when somebody who recognizes this object sees it, they're not going to be surprised by something being wrong or out of place. So, and that's what I try to do for my games. I'm trying to go for 100%, at least as close to 100% authenticity as I can. So I have lots and lots and lots of reference. I recently found this video of a guy who goes ahead and plays some really racist music on it from the time. But let's check it out. Let's see what kind of motion we got here. So the carousel is rotating. We don't see much of the internals down here, but we see there's a complicated movement here where this portion is squeezing in on the selected record. The record places down, starts spinning. The record needle spins over, sets down, and plays our wonderful music. So let's count how many separate things are going on here. Number one, we have the rotating disc. Awesome. Number two, we have the motion of these two pieces coming together closer to the center of this piece. And that's the mechanics of this, that's how it picks it up. And this piece right here rotates to follow along. So let's watch that one more time. As it squeezes in, this piece rotates. So this is the function of that. And then as soon as it's done squeezing, there's a point, and it basically just picks this whole section up and starts rotating the whole thing. It does a 90-degree turn. So depending on which record you choose, it'll pick either the front side or the back side. So this can flip either one side or the other. This way it decided to turn counterclockwise? No, I suppose it's clockwise. It sets it down. It does one last motion where you can see this outer piece does full rotation, and then this boom arm lets go of the record as it starts to spin the record, and at the very same time, this record needle arm, I'm not sure what it's actually called, the arm flips over, sets down, and starts to play. Very beautiful piece of engineering, in my opinion. Analog, all analog, very, very cool. This type of stuff I daydream about. Anyways, so we can take a look at some of the objects I have here. All of my pivot points are should be relative to the object. So let's click on this, and I'll do local. It looks like this is actually not set so that I could rotate it easily. So let's set that up real quick. I'm going to go into the world, and if I remember correctly, this is at a negative 10-degree rotation on the x-axis. So what I should theoretically see is this to be completely straight up and down, and that's not right. So it can't be 10, so let me try and get this more along the lines. Maybe a negative 9. 8.5 perhaps. I must have done this offhand. Unfortunately, I try to normally keep these rotations to a specific rotation so that I don't have to do this guesswork later on and get something like wobbling, which is something I definitely don't want as a rotational object. Oh boy. Negative 8.75 is about as close, I think, as I can get. Alright, so we're going to call that it. So the next thing I want to do is go to Modify and freeze my transformation. So that sets the rotate is now on 0, which means theoretically this should spin. It looks like I got a little bit of a problem with this asset, actually. Yes, it is slightly oblong, which is concerning. Oh, you know what? I'll screw with that later. I won't waste your guys' time. Anyways, I got a rotation which is kind of going to work for me. So I'm going to pull this down to, again, somewhere where I want it. I want to make sure it's in the right spot. And we'll just even this out to a 7.5 so it's a little bit easier to understand. And then I can take a look at my other stuff. They should be in better order. So you can see here the rotate on local. It looks like at some point everything got messed up. So let's see. Maybe I can find an older version of this. Open scene. Let's go back one iteration. This is exactly why I do iterations, and you should too. Yep, that looks like it's right. And that's right. Alright, so I did something silly, and I disrupted all the orientation of these objects. So let's try rotating this again, see if it's all sorts of whack. A little bit, but nothing concerning. Okay, we'll stick with this one for now. Alright, so we have our pieces here. Let's dictate what's going to be moving. We have this piece and this piece which rotate on their separate planes. This piece, which is a portion of the moving dealio, We have this piece over here, which also moves. I'm going to stick to a couple of simpler animations. I'm not going to get it 100%. So once again, so I don't waste your guys' time, I'm going to go ahead and group these two things together because they're going to do a lot of moving together. So I'm going to group those, and then I'm going to insert the axis of this group right on the center rotation of this this piece right here, this cylinder. Okay, so that'll help me do this, which is what I want. And then at the same time, I can play around with this. And the record needle seems to move. It'll have to flip up first and then set itself down, just like that. Alright, and everything else should be okay. Let's check the record. That looks good. Yep. And the record spindle, also good. Alright, we have everything we need now. So let's figure out some timing. Oops, I didn't mean to open X normal. That's definitely not what I want. Goodbye, X normal. We'll talk about you maybe some other time. Alright. Oh, yeah, that's right. So let's get our timing right. So rotation speed is pretty fast of the actual jockey, spindle, whatever you want to call it. 1 Mississippi. So it takes about a second for that to close. I actually think that's something I'm not going to animate right now. 1, 2, 3. Let me try that again. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, about 3 to 4 seconds of that. So that's going to be my main motion, so that's what I'm going to be concerned about for now. So I'm going to open up my outliner, and because this is a group, I can grab the whole group and I can animate this separately. So let's go ahead and put like a couple seconds of spin on this guy. Let's see, I'm going to play it out and see how it feels. Alright, so let's do about 90 frames of rotation. And I definitely don't want to go through the whole spindle once, or more than once. So let's rotate negative 250. Let's see if that's close. That's pretty close. I want to make sure that I have this selected so that I can grab the spindle. It does look like this is off again. Alright, I'll have to fix that later. Alright, so we have our extended rotation. I press S again so we can see how it plays. Oh my goodness. What happened there? Ah, I made a separate key. What a schmo. So let's make sure we're only rotating that far. Let's see if this even works. This might be too complicated to not need a rig. Alright, that's good enough for me for now. I'm going to go ahead and extend my time frame so I can see a little bit more. 200 frames is something we'll probably have to extend at some point. So after this stops moving at 90, we're going to start our animation for this boom arm flipping up. Or is it already there? I suppose it's already there. Yeah, it is. So I'll go ahead and have this on the beginning of the frame. We'll have this rotated so it's around 180 degrees, like so. And then I'm going to grab with middle mouse, make another key at 90, and then I want to grab this portion as well. Make sure that it's. This is the first time I've animated this, by the way. So, if I run into any weird problems, I blame you guys. Alright, so I'm going to set a key here. Looks like my group got messed up somehow. Let's make sure it's keyed correctly. Alright. You know what? My S key is so heavy. It's so hard to hit. That looks pretty good. I want to get it a little bit further down, actually. So I'm going to bring that a little bit further down. But not intersecting with this other stuff. Okay. Sorry for pissing around. Alright. Now we got that set. Now we can start our rotation. So, very in a non-scientific way. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. So around 170 frames. I want this to return back to where it was at 0. Make sure I key it this time. And at the same time, I want this piece, which didn't get its key at 90, to then go to 170 and rotate 90 degrees back to 0. And actually, it's not quite far enough down. Blah, blah, blah. So let's grab this group again and make sure that it extends to as far as we need it, which is about here. Alright, that looks much better. So let's see our progress. Excellent. Let's go ahead and delay the rotation of this piece by a couple of frames. So right about here is where I want to delay it. So I'm going to grab this 90 and I'm going to bring it forward to right about here. Oops. Let's make it 110. Perfect. Alright, and the next thing we want to do is animate our boom arm, or the head arm, or whatever it's called. And let's make sure that it has its correct pose in the beginning. And it probably starts right about here, right after it's set down. So heck, I'll just start with 170. And you know what? No, I'll go a little bit earlier. So maybe right about at 150, I'll have it start lifting up. That looks pretty good. And then a couple seconds later, right about here, I want it to be over my record. So I'll set a key there, and I have to extend my frame. So we'll go there, not frame, timeline. Here, and then set down. That'll take another, what about there? Let's move that to 210 just to have a nice number. Ooh. Alright, that looks pretty good. Thank you for auto-saving. Alright, so the next thing we have to do is, you know what? How are we going to do this record? Well, I suppose I'm going to make a duplicate of this so that I don't screw things up too much. We'll add this duplicate to another layer. Alright. And what I think I want to do... Oh boy, this could be pretty complex with a rigid body object. So there's a couple of things that's going to have to happen. It's going to have to be included with this group. And what I think I'm going to do is parent it to this. Oh boy. I'm all butterfingers today. And obviously, this will have to be attached to the record at some point, but we're just going to have it sit here for now. So at 90, it's going to need to follow this. Let's see if I can do this with the least amount of work. At about 140, this rotation reaches its apex. This portion here reaches its apex. And it's based off of a weird rotation thing. So maybe I can even find this record and insert it into this group here. Let's see if that works. Where'd my record go? Aha. Alright, so let's see if we can fix that. Let's freeze the transformations on it. Well, actually, first we'll have to delete this key. We'll freeze the transformations. Oh boy, this is getting tricky. Probably not the right way to do this. It's been a while since I've done rigid body animation, so you have to forgive me on this one. So let's try throwing that in again. So what will happen is it'll bring it around. And what was the rotation on that? At 110, it starts to rotate. So let's put something there, and it sets down, I forget again, at 170. So let's make sure that this follows suit. And I think I'm just going to have to fake some stuff. Okay, it's not pretty, but that'll work just fine. So right at 170, and you know what? I'll even animate this to move out. So at 170, it should go forward to about 180, so 10 frames. Let go of the record. And then let's start the record spin at 180 also. And let's end the animation completely at 300. So let's give this thing, I don't know. Whoa. I will do 250 again. Why not? I would actually calculate the rotational speed of this based off of the record size, which is 48 RPM, I think. Don't quote me on that. Oh, that looks about right. And then the next thing I want to do is match this one as well. I keep forgetting where I put my frames. 180. So let's match this one. We'll start at 180, and we end it, I keep forgetting, at 300, of course. And then let's rotate this. That's right. Ah, boy. This is where a rig would come in handy. Well, you know what? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? So I want to match in precise rotations, but this is giving me world translation. Okay. I don't know. This is just not going to rotate for now. I don't want to waste your guys' time while I figure this out. Alright. Very last thing, let's make sure that this, the rotation of the record ends abruptly, so it doesn't, we don't want it slowing down halfway through its cycle. So let's go into window, animation editor, and then the graph editor. Let's see, which one is our rotation in? So this would be rotate X, rotate X. Let's grab this guy and straighten him out. There we go. All right. We have a finished animation. Woohoo! It's something. I actually want to space these. Yeah. So let me shift select these, drag them out a little bit. Shift select this, drag it out a little bit. Perfect. All right. So let's end this at 300, like I said, and let's give this a shot. So what I'm going to do is grab all of my objects. I'm going to go into Edit, Keys, Bake Simulation. Let me bring that up real quick. And all keyable, yes please, because that will include anything. We weren't messing with, well, we did a little bit of translate, but we didn't do any scaling, but I usually allow all of the channels to be keyed, just in case. Time slider is right, because we set it to 300. Bake to animation. Baked layers, yes, we'll keep those. Sample by 1 frame. Everything should be good. So let's hit apply. Alright. So in theory, we should be good now. I'm not 100% sure. That group might come to bite us in the ass. But we're going to give this a shot. So I'm going to select all my objects. I'm going to go into File, Export Selection, and I've got this couple of tests set up already. Remember, we want to go into the FBX export, and we want to make sure we have some things turned on: smoothing groups, tangents and binormals, referenced assets, content. Oh, by the way, UE4 has a really great document section on FBX. So what they recommend as far as export settings, import settings, all that kind of stuff. You just type in UE4 FBX and you're going to get this page. All sorts of really cool stuff. Very, very, very useful when you're building a game, of course. They go to great lengths to make this stuff understandable for someone who's approaching it for the first time. So it's all there. Anywho. And that's how we learn this stuff. Bake animation, I don't really have to. Again, I won't make myself crazy. I'll leave it as it is. Deform models, skins, blend shapes, all on. Constraints, cameras, lights, embedded media, connections, turned off for now. I want to set my units to centimeters once again, and my up axis to Z. And let's go ahead and test this. Anim test. Export selection. Oh, I really hope this works first time. That would be great. If you ever wonder why I have the stock Windows background, it's because I have to switch from arrow mode, which is the see-through panels, to non-arrow mode. Weird display issues, but you have to record in arrow mode, which is pretty peculiar, I think. Alright. I can stop vamping. Let's go ahead and find this stuff. Oh, that's right, it'll be in my personal stuff. Art Racer Project, my props, FBX, nope, Juke, Anim test, excellent. So I'm just going to drag and drop it. Our materials are not going to be set up because this was the older version of Maya, my Maya file, so I didn't have the same materials applied. So I'll have to go back and fix those later. And these are the settings we want to go with. Import as skeletal. We want to import the mesh, of course. Preserve smoothing groups on. Import meshes in bone hierarchy. If checked, meshes nested in bone hierarchies will be imported instead of converted to bones. This should be fine how it is. If not, we'll come back and take a look at it. I want to import normals and tangents. Create a physics asset. I guess I don't really need that, so I can check that off. Well, you know, it's going to ask for one, so we'll leave it on. Import animations, absolutely. Exported time, yes, we want the whole timeline. Import custom attribute has to be checked on. And import materials and textures off, and everything else should be good. So, with any luck, we should be good. Oh, I didn't have it combine my objects, I don't think. Shoot. Okay. So, what I forgot to do was one critical thing, and that is combine all these into one mesh. So let's see if I can try that again in my import. So I guess I'll just drag drop it. All right, let's try this again. I realized that a little too late. We might have to do this in Maya as well, so we'll take a double look at that. So now give you the option. It looks like it's not going to give you the option. Alright, so we're going to have to do it in Maya. Simple enough. We have all of our objects. We can go into Mesh, Combine, and now you can see our animations are retained because we baked those in. But we have to rebake animation, so Edit, Keys, Bake Simulation. And this is so that we retain our animation data. That's kind of important. Alright, so now we can go into File, because what it's doing right there, sorry, if I forgot to explain, it's rebaking the animation on the vertices, and I'm not sure, it retained its animation data when we combined these meshes, but I'm not sure that they would export correctly if we didn't rebake, so that's why I went ahead and did it. So we'll export this again, export selection, and anim test, we can just export right on top of it. Shouldn't give us any problems. If it does, we'll try again with a new file. Drag and drop, import a skeletal, same method as before, import all, and hopefully this time with any luck. Last time we ran out of luck. Should work. Let's take a look at our anim. Alright, well, let's apply some material so we can see inside of our animation. Starter content, I'm just going to throw in some random materials here. Metal. A different color metal. I really want to find is the glass. There we go, the glass. And I think they have a glass. Yes, glass. Alright, it'll take a moment to build these. As you can see, my UVs are crap at the moment. Excuse those. Oh boy. Now things are getting interesting. Let's see if we can find these other... So it looks like I had some materials applied. Obviously, not all what we want. All right. Oh, it looks like this material instance was broken. So, I don't want to create an instance of an instance at this moment. I want to open this up and find its parent. So, oh, unless that didn't save. I might not have saved that black plastic from last time. That's what it looks like. Alright, well I can't use that then. That's okay. You guys don't mind looking at a gray mesh, do you? Alright. Let's take a look at what we see. And it looks like we're getting the same problem as before. So I'll pause and try and find the problem to this. I'll be right back. Okay, so problem solved. I believe so. So, the problem I was having was the structure of my objects had to be changed. So when you're going to do multiple rigid objects and rigid animations within an entire object, you have to make sure that all those objects are inserted into one main piece. So what I did is I put all these pieces into my main body, and then I broke it up into pieces which help me animate. So the record governor is this piece right here, and this helps it move up and down. The record arm is below that, and finally the record was below that. As far as rigid body animations, actually this is the way to go. And in fact, I went so far as to add dummy objects. So the record spindle has a dummy object so that I can rotate the dummy object's orientation so that the spindle is rotated forward a bit, so that when I rotate this, its translation is directly affected by rotate Z. So I'm not fudging with any other numbers. It's a little complicated, but basically I had to do the same thing with the spindle here. So you're just using like what would be in a rig, like a handle, to help us affect this kind of stuff. Anyways, so I lost all my animation. I had to redo that real quick. You might notice that in the my time is much further ahead. So yeah, we put it back in. I even went so far as to calculate how many times the 78 record, this is a 78 by the way, would spin in the given time. So we're going to end at 300. All right. Oh, there's a little bit of weird stuff going on here. So let's see. This sits down at 140. And then it starts to move forward. And the record has to do a little weird switching thing. Oh, that's why. So 145, that means the record also needs to start its rotation at 145. One more. Okay. So what is happening here is this is moving forward. This piece is moving forward, but because the record is inside of it, it's also moving forward. So what I had to do is translate it back at the same time that this is going forward to compensate so it stays in one place. All right. So little techniques like that go a long way. Okay. Super simple animation so far. And now I'm going to save. I'm going to save as, so I don't lose my stuff next time. Save scene as, and then new iteration. Excellent. Alright, and now what I want to do is do the same thing I did before. Select all my objects, go into modify, edit, keys, bake simulation, and it's going to go through the whole thing. Bada bing, bada boom. That's all done. Now I can go into file. Actually, I should delete my history also. Delete all by type, history. Alright, just to be sure. Edit. File. Export. Selection. and anim test 3. I haven't proven this with the full thing yet, so you guys are along for a ride. Bake animation, we don't need to do that again. That's the only thing that I'm going to change. Alright, and now I can come back into Unreal, which seems to have... oh, okay, it wants to start working again. Alright, so we're going to bring our anim test 3, drag and drop it in, import as skeletal, and because everything was inserted into the one main mesh, I don't have to combine all the stuff like I did before. There was no way to recover that animation data that I was talking about before, so that's why I had to do it this other way. But you guys were along for the ride, so that's fun. So, import all. I hope this works. I sure do. Crack my neck in the meantime. Ow. I did not set a bind pose. Alright, let's put some glass on here so we can see through this. Materials. And what is that? 3? No. 4? No. 5? Yeah. Alright. Let's try that again. Glass. Alright, we can finally see in. Let's see if the animation worked. Oh, yeah. Whoa, no. Okay, so it's a little janky. Far from perfect. And I suppose there must be a way around this. But for now, for rigid body animation, I don't think that's so bad. So let's go ahead and just see what it looks like in the scene real quick.